What's good, guys? It's Ronald Kabang, also known as Youcapper from sportsmemo.com. Welcome to another episode of Let's Cap. I got my boys here, Trendmaster, YBB Sports Data on Twitter, from the Action Network and NBA.com. Austin Wang, A Wang underscore HTX. What's good, guys? How are you guys feeling?
Feeling pretty good today. Can't wait to break down the slate. Today's going to be an exciting day of NBA. The Mavs won last night. Today's a good day, man.
Yeah. How about you, Austin?
Yeah, ready to kick off this weekend, man. I love that Cactus Jack meme that you posted. Bang, bang.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Bang, bang. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Yeah, but before we touch on to the NBA today, I want to talk about a little bit about yesterday. What are you guys' thoughts on the Sixers and obviously James Harden 0 for 2 in the second half in a closeout game and the post game interview from Embiid calling Harden out, like, obviously you guys are expecting him to be, who he was in Houston and all that stuff, and obviously he's not anymore. What are your thoughts on that and the future with the 76ers franchise?
I got plenty of thoughts here. I mean, Rockets fan, kind of proves that he is who we thought he was, man. Like, I've been an unapologetic Harden fan with his days in Houston, supported him unconditionally, but it's the same shit every single time. Every time the going gets tough, he shrinks in the limelight. Every big game, you can tell his body language tells a whole different story. He doesn't get back on defense. He defers to other players. And just, if he doesn't get the calls going his way, he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, sulks his shoulders and I mean, he just ain't about it. I like strip clubs and drinking just as much as you, Harden, but have some pride in your craft. So I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, he's Daryl Morey's guy. Those comments by Embiid weren't promising. I'm interested to seeing what shakes out, but he's obviously not the same player he was in Houston.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I kind of agree with everything Austin just said. The 76ers, man, they've just been I want to root for them. I want to cheer for them. I even had a bet on them last night. That's why I was all salty with my little Joel Embiid remarks. But I was hoping for a Game 7. It was mostly just wishful thinking, but they were just they were absent the whole time. Harden is just not the player that we, think of him as anymore. That player is gone. He's a better role player. He's not a ball dominant force anymore like he used to be. So those days are gone. Embiid, what I will say about the 76ers, they're a fun, great, exciting regular season team. And they're kind of like the Utah Jazz of the East. They'll always be competitive, in the regular season, but when it comes to postseason. And a lot of this also, man, it's Doc Rivers. I don't know. Doc Rivers has just never been the most impressive coach to me. Last night I posted a tweet saying, say something nice about Doc Rivers. I got probably 40 replies. Nobody was nice. Somebody said, I like his hair. And I was like,
oh, man, that's tough. I mean, obviously with the 76ers out of here, the Heat going to the finals, I think that's one team that I really thought was going to make it there, especially prior to the regular season. Just the depth and defense and the coaching, they have every aspect to make it long term in the playoffs. And then that kind of shows here. Before we have a trend later that we're looking at. Austin has a trend here on the Mavs Suns game 7, so we could talk about that game later. So let's dive into the first game tonight, the Boston Celtics and visiting the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks are minus 1.5 here. Totals at 211. From the last time I seen it, I don't know if it has moved since then, but obviously, I was on the Celtics last game, and it was tough to see them kind of blow that lead late in the fourth quarter. To me, I'm kind of expecting that momentum for the Bucks to continue here in the first quarter, possibly them taking that first quarter. But the rest of the way, it's going to be a tough call. It's a very important game here, and you have Scott Foster coming into this one as well. I'm gonna bring up something that I've seen on Scott Foster here in a little bit too. But what is your take on this first, YBB?
So I like the Celtics in the spot, but again, maybe it's just wishful thinking for a game 7, but for game 6, for game 5, they played very competitive until the fourth quarter. They were outscored by 12 points. They ended up losing the game outright as a favorite. But one trend that I do have is that these road dogs that are coming off a win in the playoffs of fewer than 3 points, the under has been a very hot spot. It's actually, let's see, it's 33-9 to the under in the postseason. So what this is telling us is that these are very.
Could you repeat that trend again so I could write that down?
Yeah, so road dogs coming off a win in the playoffs of fewer than 3 points. The following game is 33-9 to the under. So what I like here is that what that's telling us is that this is going to be a very tightly contested game. I'm going to lean with the under in this spot, but as far as the side, again, I'm going to go with the Celtics, and here's kind of my reason why. Like, I see a world where the Bucks win this game. I see a world where they can win in blowout fashion. But what I'm thinking is the Bucks are very reliant on Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is a guy who he scored 40 points last game. The Bucks are just 1-8 ATS following a game where he scored at least 40 points. And that just goes to show that they're just way too reliant on him. And the last trend on that is that they're 2-11 ATS and 2-11 straight up. And their last 13 games following an outright win as a dog. So, and those 2 wins were against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks. Those 2 wins, they were at least 7-point favorites. So this line isn't all the way telling. This could be a letdown motivational spot that, you can't exactly cap. But I would lean towards the Celtics in this spot. But I see an argument for, like what you said, Bucks first quarter, first half. But yeah, I think that down the line there, outside of Drew and Giannis, it's hard to rely on those role play. Maybe Bobby Portis, but it's just hard to rely on them to close out the game. I like the Celtics with their backs against the wall in this spot, but sign me up for the under. And yeah, I like the Celtics as well.
Nice. Yeah, I like the trend that you brought up with that under. I think it makes a lot of sense here. Austin, what are you thinking on this one?
As far as the side, I don't have too strong of an opinion there. I mean, this has been a zigzag type series, and look, we deserve a game 7. Let's get a game 7 here, and I think I'm going to be leaning towards the Celtics as well. They really should have won that last game. That was just obviously great execution by the Bucks down the stretch, but Celtics had that game on lock, and I've liked the Celtics all series long. Just without Middleton, I'm just surprised and I'm impressed by the Bucks' ability to persevere. But I think Celtics have the better overall all-around squad. I expect Robert Williams to play tonight. I don't have any inside info or anything, but he's listed as questionable. I think he's in an elimination game. I think he'll try to give it a go, which will help the defense for the Celtics quite a bit. But I do agree with you, YBB, on the under. I mean, it being an elimination game, 2 strong defensive teams, potentially getting Robert Williams back. Jason Tatum had 34 points last game, but it was an inefficient 34. He really hasn't been shooting the ball well this series, and there's been a lot of news coming out that he's been dealing with a hurt wrist, so I just don't see him having that repeat performance. A lot of people talk about Game 7s being strong to the under, but Game 6 are also strong to the unders too. They're 83 and 63 to the under, dating back to 2004, 2005, and that's from Bet Lab, so that's hitting at a 57% rate. Teams are worn down, they're fatigued. They know each other so well. They've made their necessary defensive adjustments over the course of the series, and with so much at stake, I see these 2 defenses shining, and we get a prime under spot here for Game 6.
Yeah, and towards just on that note too, Game 6 and Game 7, the longer the series goes, they know how important each possession gets. So they're going to take their time a little bit more. Obviously, defensively, they're going to focus on the key players. The strategy wise, it just makes a lot of sense later in the series for things to go under. One thing that I wanted to bring up, so I was talking about the first quarter for the Bucks here. I just want to share my screen here. This is SpoDev, one of the sites I use that for SDQL. What I brought up here is the Bucks in home favorite situations, home favorite conference situations against teams with a winning record. obviously you see the record here, 10-6 straight up and 3-13 against the spread. I kind of just want to throw this out of the window right now, just because the line is at a position where you're basically just asking, whoever to win the game, right? 1.5, it's going to be tough for it to fall right at the one point. But in that case, what I wanted to really show is really this first quarter here with a 6.5 point margin, 6.4 point margin here in the first quarter in those spots here, and the rest of the way you can kind of see it even out with their opponent, and majority of that. So majority of this 4 point margin overall is happening here in that first quarter, and I kind of feel that's kind of like the way that they do it at home anyways. They start off strong at home. They also have the momentum coming off of that comeback win in the fourth quarter. And for me, obviously, another thing too to think about is the whole Scott Foster situation, right? This is something that's been brought up a lot, especially on Twitter. And one thing that I want to bring here is, a lot of people say, well, Scott Foster is the extender. He's coming in here to bring this game to Game 7. But what I want to show here, this is Sports Insight, Bet Labs, and what I bring. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. But what I brought in here is Scott Foster in the playoffs, in Game 6 and Game 7 of a series, and the last team either won 1 or won 2 in a row, and they're the favorite. I could actually even take this off, and this would still be profitable towards the Milwaukee Bucks here, 20-6 against the spread here. But I mean, if we want to just add that the team is the favorite, which the Bucks are here, it becomes 13-1. This is a very, very, very strong trend here. I mean, to say that Scott Foster is more of a closer than an extender in this specific spot, that's just my opinion. I know refs is a whole different beast right now, especially in this playoffs that we've been talking about it a lot, especially on Twitter. What are your guys' thoughts on refs affecting games here?
I mean, I think you're right. All throughout Twitter, you're seeing him being dubbed the extender. But yeah, you have the data to prove otherwise right here. So no, I think that's a great find, Ronald. That's a great find.
What about you, YBB?
I hate that we have to consider who's reffing a game in order to
exactly
for our capping. I hate that, but I mean it makes a ton of sense. Again, like I said, there's a world where I see the Bucks winning this game, closing it out, but I just I think that this is where I'm at with the Celtics. With tight spreads between +2 and -2, they're 15-4 ATS and 15-4 straight up. These are guys that with very tight lines, they're exceeding and excelling. They're winning these games. So I'm just falling back on some trends in the spot. But yeah, man, Scott Foster, I guess I don't know. That's interesting though. 13-1 is a strong number for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the part where obviously when in the playoffs the games are a lot tighter, the lines are closer. The lines are a lot tighter, and you can't pick your spots like you did in the regular season, right? You have 6-7 game slates or whatever it might be. You can pick the spots that you want to bet on. In the playoffs, there's really only like 2 games at this point every day. So it's really tough to find those spots. And with us having to find trends in all different areas, you really just gotta take it game by game, take these trends and different situations lightly, in my opinion, and kind of just see. Yeah, you're gonna have to take these trends and also look at the game visually, in my opinion. So that one's a tough one. Overall, I think this is a hard game for me to cap. But gun to head, what would you guys bet in this game? You don't have to actually have the money on it, but if you had a free bet, what would it be?
I'm gonna go with the under in the spot. Again, that trend that I had mentioned, I think I messed that one up. I'm reading my notes right now. I just pulled them up, but the home teams. So with tight spreads, +2, -2, totals greater than 210, coming off a playoff game as a dog. They've gone 33-9 to the under, and it's a perfect 8-0 this postseason. We saw it last night with Dallas and Phoenix. These tight spreads, they're just trending towards the under, and these are marginal unders. So on average, they're staying under by 17.2 points per game in these games. So I'm gonna go with the under as probably my favorite lean in this spot because again, the Bucks. I mean, they're a good team, but let's not forget the Celtics have had their number ATS throughout the regular season, and just because we've had a couple of hiccups in the postseason doesn't mean that they're gonna that trend follows. They have had the Bucks number since I think last season. I don't have the exact number, but they have been covering the spreads against these guys. So yeah, interesting game, but I'll go with the under as my favorite spot in this game.
All right, nice.
I'm rolling with that one too. I'm rolling with the under here. Saw a little steam upwards this morning, going from 211 to 212. I think that's where it's at right now.
Okay, so it's going up, so that's giving you guys a little bit of value here. For me, it would probably be that Bucks first quarter. I like that spot here. And the rest of the way, you guys can have the game. You guys can have the Celtics in that situation. But yeah, so that's the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics there. Next up, we got the Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. Warriors -8 here. 217.5 is the total. This one is crazy because obviously we just saw the Grizzlies dominate that game from beginning to end, except for the fourth quarter, obviously when they let off the gas pedal. But and we're seeing the number at -8, strong number towards the Warriors here at home. Obviously, another big news here is Steve Kerr probably, I believe he's still out. He's not coaching again, and maybe that's a big factor here. What is your guys' thoughts on this one? Start off with Austin this time.
Oh man, the Grizzlies have just been so impressive here. They've shown a lot of grit, and even without Ja Morant, something happens with this team. They just all collectively step up. When they don't have their one alpha dog, Ja in the lineup. Although I think at some point, sometimes Dylan Brooks thinks he's the alpha dog. But Steven Adams, DeAnthony Melton, they've been given the Grizzlies some great minutes after being non-factors in the last series. And I look at the spread and I tend to think the 8 points is too much. But it's just hard to bet against the Warriors here at home, especially after two poor shooting performances. And I would think that I expect some positive shooting variance from the Warriors, and I kind of lean towards the over here. The pace has been fast. I think the Warriors are going to shoot better at home, but it's just I hesitate because I don't like betting overs late in the series for some of the reasons that I explained earlier. Unders are more prevalent later on in the series. These teams are very familiar with each other, fatigue. But yeah, I think my heart says over, but I'm just a little hesitant. I wouldn't make that a strong play of mine, and I would lean towards the Grizzlies as well. But neither one is one I'm really interested in getting involved in.
Yeah, YBB, what are you thinking?
So to kind of piggyback on what Austin said, I do actually have a trend on that over spot that you like. The Warriors are actually on a perfect 12-0 to the overrun when they failed to cover the spread against their opponent in 2 consecutive meetings. So they failed to cover 2 straight against the Grizzlies. They're in a prime spot to go towards the over. That's not my favorite play, though, in this game. I kind of like the Warriors. I like them to bounce back. I like them at home. I like the environment. I think that they want to avoid a Game 7 at all costs, and they don't want to go back to Memphis. Remember, they are the lower seed team in the spot. They need to win. And, while the Grizzlies have been outperforming their opponents without Ja Morant, it's been, is it an anomaly? I don't know. Are they actually better without Ja? I have no idea. But it's been impressive. They're 20-7 ATS, 21-6 straight up without their best player. And I just think that, I think 8 is wide, but I think it's sharp, and I think it's right because the Warriors are also 13-1 ATS in their last 14 home games facing an opponent in that same condition that they failed to cover the spread against in 2 meetings. They're 13-1 ATS in that time. They're 23-3 straight up in the playoffs following back-to-back ATS losses versus their opponent. But these are marginal victories. They're winning these games by 13-plus points on average. This is a prime Warriors spot, in my opinion. I like the Warriors. I like the number. But then, that over, that's kind of where it gets a little sharp. I think 217 seems low. It might be 218 now, but I think it seems low.
Mhm.
But I also think that number is also just right because the Warriors last game, they got blown out by 20 plus points. They had 20 plus turnovers. And in those games that they commit at least 20 turnovers, did you know the under is 17-1-1 following a game that they commit 20 turnovers? And these are marginal unders. They're staying under by about 12 and a half points on average. So it's a nice 19-game sample size. So, yeah, interesting game here. I'm going with the Warriors, though. I like them first half, full game. I think the number is sharp, but I'm still going to play it.
Okay. Yeah, this one is really tough. Obviously, we always talk about the Grizzlies without John, how they've been doing. The Warriors here, avenging a double-digit loss throughout the regular season, including the playoffs. They're 6-0 straight up, 5-1 against the spread, and they're winning those games by a margin of like 12 or 13 points. But then again, on the Grizzlies side, they obviously shown that they play solid defense. Very, very strong defense without Ja. That's kind of like their focus, right? They know they're not going to be able to get into the paint like Ja can, but they bring the defensive aspect of it. What I do want to bring up here is the difference between how they play home versus away without Ja. So what I brought up here, zoom in a little bit here. What I brought up here is the Grizzlies this season without Ja against teams with a winning record. 9-4 straight up, 10-3 against the spread. But what I want to do is the home and away splits, right? So I want to go how they do at home. And obviously they took care of business at home, right? 7-1 straight up, 7-1 against the spread. It kind of goes along with what happened in the previous game. On the road though, right? So now we're looking at home. This is what we see. They play a lot better offensively at home, but I just feel like in this situation here, let's go on the road. There's a difference right there, right? You see the big gap there. That's where I'm kind of confused on what happened in the previous game. This is just crazy stuff to think about. The gap home away, but then what happened in the previous game. So that's one thing. It's like you can't really take these trends too seriously, especially in the playoffs. You got to make sure you look at the trends that are able to transfer over from regular season to playoffs here. This one's all over the board for me. I could see the Warriors winning the game, but not covering. But I could also see them coming back and saying, "Yo, you guys just dominated us. Now we're gonna do it back to you and close out the series." So for me, this one's a tough one. I'm seeing support on all angles from both teams over under. This one is probably a really just a stay away game for me here. And money wise, I would probably just stick to that first game with that first quarter. But yeah, so I think what I'm hearing though, guns ahead, if you guys were to bet this game, YBB, you're saying the Warriors here, they win and cover the game.
I think that they'll win by 9. Like, I think it's going to be a tight cover. You'll be
that's
sweating,
real tight.
You'll clinch. That's real tight.
Yeah, real tight.
Yeah, it's just I have to do it. I think that they don't want to go back to Memphis. So, yeah, give me the Warriors at home in a closeout game. So,
so write that down, Warriors. And Austin, you were saying that you wanted to just stay off it completely, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on this one, although YBB made some great points and some shared some awesome trends and stats. But for me, yeah, I could see it from both angles. I'm going to go ahead and pass on this one and stick with the Bucks and Celtics.
Yeah, I was all over the place with this one. Initially, I was like, all right, I like the over, and then the deeper you look into it, now I like the under. Initially, I like the Warriors, and then the deeper I look into it, now I like the Grizzlies. So in that case, I'm probably going to pass as well on this one. If I really, really had to, it would be sort of like maybe like an outline or something like that. I don't know. It's just so crazy to look at in this game specifically. I want to see it go 7 games because I think this is an awesome series to watch. But yeah, that one's just too crazy to actually put money on for me, in my opinion. Next up, we're gonna talk about a previous game that happened yesterday. The Mavs and the Suns here. The Mavs took care of business, and obviously in Game 7, it's a one-off game. You never know what's gonna happen. Now having a being number one in the Western Conference doesn't mean anything anymore because it's a one-off game, and you have a sort of like a generational talent in Luka here that could probably take over the game if he wanted to, because no one's really stopping him at this point. Austin, you had a trend that you wanted to bring up here. You want to talk about that a little bit? I'm gonna bring it up right now.
Sure, yeah, bring it up. So this is revolved around free throw rate. So free throw rate is the amount of field goal attempts divided by your free throw attempts divided by your field goal attempts, and so the average is around 20, has been running around 28% in this playoffs here. So I was taking a look at number one. Game sevens are 15-8 to the under since 2014, 2015. So like we said earlier, game sevens, the pace slows down, every possession counts, defensive intensity goes up. So very strong to the unders. And the books, of course, adjust for that already. So keep that in mind. But we got two strong defensive teams. But one thing I wanted to point out was that the Mavs shot a lot of free throws in the previous game. I don't have the exact number, but the trend is when a team has had a free throw rate of 35% or more. Is that the one I gave you, Ronald?
Yeah, 35% or more. Yeah.
And they won their previous game. The following game has tended to go under. So it's 77-43 to the under in the history since the 2015 season. That's hitting at a rate of 60%. And then for this season, it's 15-4 to the under.
You can kind of see that it's been happening in the playoffs as well, and very strong So here, that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's about 8 unders in a row following this trend. So it's hitting at a really good rate here, and you can kind of I believe the previous total was above. What was the previous total for this game? Because it looks like at 207.5. If that's the correct total, it's gone down a lot from the previous game.
I think that's the game 7 impact that I just spoke about. But yeah, it closed at 210.5 for yesterday's game. And so if you think about like the logic behind it, I think the logic behind it is that the team shot a lot of free throws. The refs called a lot of fouls. They got the win. They're gonna compensate in the next game and not call as many fouls, not as many free throws, and that will tend to lead to a lower scoring game.
Yeah, I like that. I like that look a lot. I was leaning towards the under initially anyways, just based off it being a game 7. And then obviously the stat you brought up is really strong here. YBB, I know you love this Dallas team. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this game tomorrow or on Sunday?
Listen, I like the Mavs a lot, but I'm also honest as hell when I say that this is a primed Phoenix spot. Well, they're just they're good, man. They're deep. They are Devin Booker and Chris Paul they're coming off of very poor performances. Now they get to return home and recoup that. It's a little. I mean, we're playing with fire a little bit. I see the line is at +6 right now. I think that's generous. I think it should be closer to about 7.5. I'm gonna have this game about 105-97 Phoenix. I think that they win in game 7. This is a team that is 18-1 ATS, avenging a double-digit loss. That's a trend I don't want to get in front of. Now I want to find one for the Mavericks, but we already played it last night. It's a back and forth, active trends that you can find in this series. And an angle that I am trying to find for the Mavs is almost forcing one. It's not going to pass the SDQL test, but it might pass the eye test. Maybe they are good enough to cover 6 points, but I'm not touching it. I do root for the Mavs. I do like Luka. I do think Luka is more marketable than Devin Booker. We can argue all day if you want, but I think that they are just a better team, and they're just, we're missing something. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to me, like I agree. I think it's the depth there. Obviously, they've been doing really well, currently. But in a one-off game, it just seems like the depth is gonna play into a factor, especially the longer the game goes on towards the end. Yeah, I like that. I like that look. I do like the under a lot too on Sunday. Obviously, the number being that low is kind of telling us a little bit of a story there. Yeah, that's the NBA. We just touched on those games there. We even gave you a little future look towards the the Suns and the Mavs. Up next, I think we want to talk a little baseball, right? Is that what we want to do here? Do you guys have any key looks here that we want to kind of, maybe we could just cap it live? What's a game you guys want to bring up right now?
Yeah, I have one game that I'm looking at, and I actually tweeted about it yesterday. The Baltimore Orioles, they're 15-2 on the run line. Now the run line might be a little bit pricey today. I think at -150. Those are lines that I am not willing to touch, especially with the Dodgers blowing that Pittsburgh Pirates first 5 line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't like playing juice in MLB. That's one of my big things. But, you know, they're 15-2 on the run line against lefties as a dog between 130 and 190. So the Orioles, I mean, the bats are kind of hot, to be honest. They've looked good. They're playing well. This is a team that I mentioned earlier that I am looking to back as dog.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and if you have a Tigers
the run line
team
might be a little bit expensive, but I think they can steal this.
Yeah,
exactly. The
Tigers as a favorite.
They've only won once in the last 10 games.
Yeah. It's always tough to see that
at
shit.
that. Like, yeah, give me the Orioles in the spot. I like them as a dog. I think today in general is going to be an MLB dog day, but that's just one look. That's one look for me. That my other side, I'm going to go with the Rockies under. I like the under in that spot. You know, the Royals, while they've been covering the run line against lefties. They're just they're 192 versus lefties overall the season and 181 batting average following a loss versus lefties on the season. Kyle Freeland, he's 15-6 to the under. You know, coming off a winning start in which he allowed less than 2 walks and less than 5 hits. The Royals are also missing 2 key pieces. They're going to be without Olivares and Mondesi. They're the team's better batters on the season. So they're just slightly thin. Give me the under in this spot. I think that we have 2 underrated pitchers in front of us. So I like the under in the Rockies game, and I'm still eyeing the Orioles. I'm not too sure what to do there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Austin. I think all 3 of us. We talked a little bit before. We all like this under here. Obviously, I'm bringing this up on SpoDevs here. We're looking at Greinke and Freeland here. Obviously, we're looking at the over under is pointing towards that direction. Their ERA is pretty solid, and they all pitch above 5 innings. What are your thoughts on splitting that the first 5 or the full game? Is that something that you would do the full, or would you trust the full game more, or would you try to keep the bullpen out of it and take the first 5 under? Austin.
Yeah,
I kind of. Oh, sorry.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. I don't have a strong opinion on this one.
No, I was gonna say I lean both. I like the first 5 innings with Kyle Freeland on the mound. I think that the full game over is pretty hot too. Like I said, the Rockies. The Royals. They're 28th in batting average on the season. You know, they're not batting as well, and the Rockies as well. They're just 1-8-1 over under. I always word this incorrectly. 8-1-1 to the under. They're 8-1-1 to the under. Following a road series in which they were swept. So, yeah, give me the under. I like the under in all spots here. I'm seeing probably a maximum of 10 runs. I think that 10.5 is a generous hook for us. So, yeah, I'm going under.
You can kind of see this here, how the Royals hit against lefties as well.
Yeah, exactly.
0.192. They're not putting up a lot of runs. If we look at home away, obviously it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because you're playing in Colorado here. But still, in that factor, you're still factoring this part about how they hit against lefties. And then obviously you have this number here for the Rockies against righties. And then you have the full game, right? You're looking at full game average runs plus opponent runs. It's still under 10.5 their last at home with the Rockies. And if you factor in that their opponent is the Royals, who don't hit great against lefties already, you could probably bring that down a little bit, in my opinion. So I definitely like the look on the under in this one.
This is amazing, by the way. Like this, just to have all the stats like presented and all these situational aspects is just an amazing tool for every single game.
Yes,
I love this for especially for the MLB here. This is something that's like helped me a lot, especially this season, as far as like looking at the batting splits and against lefties and righties, home away. This is really almost an all-in-one type of deal here in this spot. But yeah, so this is dope. I think we touched on every NBA game. We touched the MLB game. You guys have anything else to add? I mean, we could keep going or we could stop here. We stop. I mean, it's up to you guys.
I think we pretty much touched on every point. I am going to close out with saying that I hope the Mavs win, damn it. That's it. That's all I have to say. Wishful thinking, but you know what? I'm a fan.
I don't care. I hope they go under. That's all I
Let's go under. That's what
go.
it is. Yeah. Mitch, this is a free site. You just gotta I think you just need to actually I don't even think you need to sign up with your email. I believe this is a free site. I'll put the link on there. Hold on.
Yeah, so there's a couple of sites that you can go to for SDQL nowadays.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot more than one now. Yep.
Give me the
I
dog.
will say this: the difference between Spodez and Gimme the Dog. I like how Gimme the Dog will show you in MLB specifically the ROI numbers, the money earned per win loss. I like that. I like that aspect. There's always different things and tools that you like for each. I incorporate both of them when I cap. So yeah, both of them are very helpful tools.
Yep. Also, the parameters are a little bit different as well. The Give Me the Dog is for me is easier to pull out the player situations. Spodevs, I actually don't know if we can in Spodevs. I haven't been able to pull that out, but yeah, that's something. That's something that's the difference between the two sites as well. Austin, before we close out, you have any last words?
No. Let's make it a profitable weekend, guys.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the end of the show, guys. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button so you don't miss any scheduled shows or any content. Make sure you check out my Sportsman profile in the description for premium picks and packages. Austin Wang, you can check out his Twitter, awang_HTX, YBBSportsData at YBBSportsData on Twitter. He has a Patreon. He has a huge Patreon following there. He does a lot of trends there. Austin has his work published on NBA.com and Action Network. So these guys are very, very trustworthy people, and I push you guys to follow them if you don't already. And I always want to close out with this. Please remember, whether you fade or follow us, it's on you to make that call. Good luck on all of your action. And until next time, peace.